Society Matters.
Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Arnie Herz, and on today's inaugural episode of Habits of a Whole Heart on HMTV, my special guest, Bernie Furshpan, will join me for a conversation about the core principles of habits for a whole heart. Let's start with this: what, where, and why. And Bernie, you invited me to do this podcast episode. You have a movie coming out that you helped produce, and you're very experienced with podcasts, and you were inspired by this topic. So I'm curious to know a little bit about what inspired you about this topic.
I just want to make it clear that this is your series. This is the inaugural episode of your series that you're going to be running, and you'll have, of course, other guests as well as myself. I was very flattered to be asked to be part of a documentary. I didn't actually produce it. There was a crew and a production company that followed me around for a good week in schools, over here at the center, at my house, in the car. I mean, they really invaded my life for a week, and I hope that it's going to turn out okay.
And what's the essence of the documentary?
So I ran an event here at the museum, the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And a filmmaker happened to have been in the audience. It was a full house. And she comes up to me afterwards and she says, I got to do a documentary about you and your father's story, because I told my father's story, an abbreviated version. And I said, can I think about it? Because that's a big deal, with my name on it. I don't know if, I'm doing this because I love doing this. I'm not necessarily looking for fame. I just want to do the right thing and talk to kids, because they are our future, and I have a lot of hope for their future. But it takes a lot of education. And everybody's doing their part. We're all trying to do our part. And so then I said, you know what, if it's going to help get our message out there in our mission, why not? Let's do it.
What do you say the core messages that you want kids to walk away with?
That you are me and I am you under different circumstances, to foster empathy and try to understand another person's point of view. Because in essence, really, over the many hundreds and thousands of years, we forgot that we all came from the same place. We all came from the same original mother, some thousands of years ago. And as we spread over the planet, we started looking different. We created different cultures, and we forgot that we all came from the same place. And so we see each other as different rather than the same. But we're just a version of the same person, really. And if we see each other that way, it's a different point of view. Not from the outside, but rather from the inside. And so if we understand, like just this week, there was a mission up that was it a SpaceX, or it was one of those where how many women, 4 or 5 women, went up into space for about 10 minutes to see the planet, to see Earth from above. And it's very transformational when you see the planet from above like that. You realize, and they said it, you realize, we share this little planet here, and can't we do better? Can we be kinder to each other? I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere. We can do a hell of a lot better. That's really, I think, the message that I try to get out there, is that we can do better. Your generation is going to inherit this broken world. You don't have to inherit hate. It's a choice. You don't have to automatically take on the problems that we had. You can actually change the direction of society.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Is that the end of the show?
I hope it's a huge success. It's coming out May 4th.
Coming out May 4th at 5 p.m. at the Manhasset Cinemas.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I'll spread the word.
Thank you.
It's an important message.
It is. And my father was an incredible person. He came out a very kind and generous human being after witnessing his entire family being wiped off the surface of this planet, and all of his friends. His whole life was just wiped out. Only 30 people made it out of this tiny little shtetl, this little village of 1,500 Jews. And, it was quite a story that he told. And I share it, and I have to. It's a moral obligation.
Oh, well, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And I think it very much relates to the podcast, Habits of a Whole Heart.
Yes.
And the book that I'm writing under the same title to really bring forth some of these core principles in the world that seems very fractured today.
Right.
A world that is in tremendous chaos. And there's also a lot of really amazing stuff that's going on. Some people are doing incredible work of bringing humanity together.
Absolutely. That's where people have choices. They can either descend down to a very low level or rise to the occasion and do some great things. So there's a lot of good people out there, a lot of people doing great things. Really, it's not that there's good and bad people. It's just people doing either good things or doing bad things. Because I think we've all done bad things, not extreme. I'm just saying that we all have choices in life. And this is an opportunity for all of us to really, show our mettle.
So what do you, I think that's so perfectly syncs up with the core principle of the book. What do you think makes people act in ways, each of us, in a good way or a bad way on a case-by-case basis?
Well, a lot of it is intuitive to most of us. I think it's instinctive, like a maternal sense when a mother knows to take care of her child and what's right and wrong for the child. A lot of it is learned. It's what you hear in the household, from your friends, from teachers. So education is very important. Just like propaganda can brainwash people to do bad things, ordinary people doing bad things, education, can mitigate that and teach people to do the right thing. What is the right thing? What are you writing about? I'd like to know what you're writing about. What are the habits that you're outlining here? I'm curious myself to see how they kind of sync up with the way I see the world.
Right. Well, I'll take a step back in the core. The book really has two core principles. The first is that who we think we are and who we really are in essence is a disconnect. So I understand it's me and there's you and there's the microphone.
Right.
And there's a very multifaceted world of different people, different things, different needs, different ideas. And so we live in this world of what we would call world of separation. Mm-hmm. And that's a real reality. If I were to say I'm the same as you, there'd be something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. I'm the same as the microphone. And so we need to survive. And based out of that sense of survival, we become selfish. And we form groups, and those groups become selfish, and they become divisive. And there is something important about forming a group, being part of a tribe in order to survive in a world where there's limited resources. But what spiritual wisdom teaches, and this is Judaism and Eastern philosophy and all monotheistic religions, teaches that and we know this from quantum physics, mm-hmm. that there is one energy system, that notwithstanding the fact that there's me and you appear the way you appear because my eyes have a limited bandwidth in being able to pick up certain vibrations that my eye sees and my ear takes in. And as a result, it forms you, and I see you as separate. Mm-hmm. And again, that's real. But at the same time, if we had a quantum microscope, we would see that this entire room is nothing but pulsating energy.
It's like a milk of subatomic particles. You can't really delineate where the person starts or where they end, right?
Correct. And this subatomic particles is pulsating in and out of being in every single moment.
Right.
Which reflects what it says in Torah, which is that God breathes into each moment the creation of that moment. And
yes.
If God were to withdraw himself from that for a split second, the world would vanish. And so this is what the mystics and Torah said 3,500 years ago, and now we understand this in the last 50 years from quantum physics. So at the ultimate reality, we are all connected. We also living in this world in this concept called time. Time is a construct. It's real. I know that I'm going to be a day older tomorrow than I was today. And I'm older today than I was yesterday. So there is a real thing called time. There was a period of time before I was here, and there'll be a period of time after I'm here. So we're very aware of time. But we also know from Einstein's theory of relativity and from science that time is also a construct, that there are places in the universe where light is moving at such a speed that time's not moving. So we have to appreciate, it's like very difficult to prove what God is. What we can prove, however, is that the understanding we have about the world that we're absolutely so certain about is not the ultimate truth. It is a truth, but not the ultimate truth. And the essence of this book is that we are fully aware of our human self, that self of me and you, but we're not fully aware of our godly self, which is also a point of consciousness within ourselves. And generally, people are only able to access that through meditation. Some people do it through psychedelic drugs. People access a certain sense of wholeness or oneness through different ways. And what this book is trying to bring out is to let people see how this godly soul that they have is real, it's essential, and it's really the core of who you are. It's the aspect of who you that will continue on when you're no longer here. And once we're able to experience that broader oneness, it gives us that's the reason why, and you said the mother's instincts. Mm-hmm. The mother's instincts are there because she knows that she's completely connected with this infant. A humanitarian loves another person because they know that they're connected. We could be walking down the street, rushing for a meeting, important meeting, client meeting. I'm a lawyer. And I'm walking across the street, and all of a sudden, God forbid, I should see someone who's fallen onto the street, collapsed in a heart failure. And a car is about to come, and I run out and I stop the car. And I call 911, and I help this person. And 15 minutes later, they're in the ambulance, they're on their way, and I've helped save their life. Why did I stop? I never see this. I'm never going to see this person again. Why did I stop? Why do I feel so good that I did that?
Because you feel connected. You kind of sense what they're going through. We can relate to. That's why people watch television, or they watch a reality TV, or even on the internet, or on social media. They want to see what people's lives are like because they can kind of put themselves in their situation. We can identify with people because we're all people. It's harder to identify with, a pig. A dog is different. It's kind of domesticated. It has kind of like some human traits. But people, we can totally relate to. So if they're going through pain, you know what pain is like. So you have that. Empathy is inborn, but many people kind of disconnect from it because of what they learned. But when you get back to that basic empathetic sense, when you foster it, you actually, feel other people's pains. And sometimes we cry, right? Don't we cry when we see a movie, when we see somebody crying in the film? We become them for that moment. We dive into their life.
So to go into the technology of this a little bit, which I love what you just said, is that the core principle of the book is that we have two souls. Mm-hmm. We have a human soul that sees it in a me context, and we have a godly soul that's eternal and connected to everything. And that in every moment, we make a choice of which soul are we going to empower. And that's critical. When you choose to be empathetic to someone who's upset, when you choose to lend a hand, you are empowering that aspect of you that says we are connected. And it could be with an animal too, or nature. When you choose to act out of your own selfishness of what you need, and there's times we have to take care of what our needs are. I'm not suggesting here through this podcast or this book that people should reject taking care of themselves. You have to take care of yourself. But when it's just about us, it becomes more limiting. And this is one of the key focus of the book. And the other core principle is understanding what makes us tick. We know from cognitive science, there was a guy, Dan Kahneman. He won the Nobel Prize for behavioral economics. Brilliant guy. Unfortunately, passed away during COVID. He wrote a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. And through that book and many others, including books written by Jonathan Haidt, I've really studied how the mind works and how that interacts with our emotions. And so when we want to change anything within ourselves, we have to really understand what's the mechanism that makes us work. And that's one of the things that we're really going to be taking a look at in this podcast and, of course, in the book.
It's brilliant, You said a couple of things that struck a chord, one of which is it conjured up a thought that I had or something that I heard in the past, that when you hurt one person, you hurt everybody. It's kind of like when, you have the surface of the water and you have your whole hand underneath, but when you you break through the water with your fingers, you see them separate, but really they're all connected underneath. And that's really what the message that you're saying is, that we are all interconnected. And when you empower that connection, you feel it. And I think people do feel it. I think everybody senses that at some point during the day, when they become emotional, when they see somebody else cry or somebody suffering, that's when they make that connection.
So is there anything you can do, you think, to make that more part of your life?
Yes, to not be afraid of other people, to sit down and talk to them, to spend more time with them. It's all about time. The more time you spend with somebody, the more you can connect with them, the more you like them, the more they like you. Because then you realize you're really the same, because they say, oh yeah, I like that too. Oh yeah, let's do this together. And then you realize that really we're all pretty much the same. We have the same emotions, same feelings. We may use different terminology, eat different foods, but really the essence is the same. The essence is the same.
So, but sometimes, you have that real connection with a kid or your wife or your husband or whatever it may be, and you know them really well. You sit with them, but yet there's still a disagreement, divisiveness. So, how do you manage that? And before you answer that, I want to just take a step back. That the first word of the podcast is habits.
Right.
And understanding the neuroscience of how our brain operates. One thing that we understand is that anything we want to become good at, we have to move it from the slow brain into the fast brain. It has to become habitual and automated. I'm learning how to play golf right now. My kids like golf. So it's something we're going to start doing together as a family. And I'm terrible at it. I'm just learning. I've taken one lesson so far. And I realize as I'm practicing over the last couple of weeks, I just have to create the habit of the main focus. So what this book does is it says, let's systemize being good by creating habits.
Right. Yeah. We all want to be valuable to others and validated. And one of our assets is that we have knowledge. It's like you see a movie and you say to a person, oh, you got to see this movie. What do you mean you didn't see the movie? It's almost like I'm a valuable resource for you. So watch the movie or come to my restaurant. You're going to love this restaurant. And then you watch the meat. You see, didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you? So it's almost like I'm validating myself. It's the ego thing. I am validating myself that I'm valuable to other people because that's important to me. Otherwise, there's a lot of studies showing that if you're not loved by others, you get depressed. You can die young as a result. Children that are never touched, they experiments with that, and infants passed away because they weren't touched and loved. And so we all need that love connection. In order to be loved, we want to feel like we're validated, like we have some value to other people. And so that's where the arguments come in, is that my information is more valuable than your information, or I'm more valuable than you are. And so there's this argument, who's right and who's wrong. And sometimes one of the habits that I found that helped my relationships over the many years is to back away from that, is not to be right, is just to listen to their point of view because they have a different angle. They got a different angle on it. And I learned so much from other people. And I think it's a good habit that I do that. Many people don't listen to other people. When you have a conversation with somebody, some people, they already want to jump in the conversation and prove the other person wrong. They don't even listen to the other person. You can see that they're thinking about, their rebuttal before they even listen completely to the other person's side of the story.
Very nice. I didn't interrupt, but I like
You did
your point.
listen. I must say, you're very good at this.
I like your point very much. So going back to the habits,
Right.
what I'm trying to bring forth is a system
Right. That's
for
good.
habits.
Great.
And when I think about my Jewish faith, one of the habits is understanding what's essential. So much of what we focus on is irrelevant. And it ends up taking up our time. So when you talked about just listen to the other person, have a different perspective, what you're understanding is that what's more important is the relationship than who's right and who's wrong.
Correct.
And that by really listening and validating someone else's perspective, you are understanding what's essential. And this is the starting point, is to truly understand and remind ourselves how precious life is, how sacred life is, and don't get caught up with the nonsense.
Right.
Because it's oftentimes the petty nonsense that creates the most problems for us.
It's so true, right? It can explode and snowball into something awful. You know, it gets ugly, I think, for a lot of people. Unfortunately, they can undo all of that and learn these new habits. I love your idea. I truly love your concept of the habits that people, they become part of our, they become part of us. It's who we are. And so we can reshape and redefine ourselves, can't we?
That's right. Absolutely.
Is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Well, it's like in the same way you can get yourself in physical shape, you can get yourself into, whether you call it spiritual shape, psychological shape, where you're not going to you're so trained and so habituated to put things in perspective. That's just one of the habits.
Will you be conducting workshops or classes or some kind of instructional content where people can learn how to change their habits and what these habits are?
Yes, that's part of the plan.
I love that. I think it's great. I think what you're doing is awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So tell me more.
So another habit.
A couple of minutes left. So.
Yeah. So another habit that I find very helpful. We go back to the two souls, the human soul, the me focus, the godly soul, the external focus, is just to have the habit when you're in a conflict situation or you're feeling stressed out or put upon, which happens. It's human nature, right? We're torn in a million different ways. If you're successful and you're busy, everybody needs you, everybody wants you. Mm-hmm. Ask this question: where am I needed? Most of the time, we go around asking the question, what do I need? We go around and we're constantly answering that question. I need food. I need you to recognize me. I need money. I need this. I need that. We have so many needs. We're very focused on our needs. But if you pivot and ask yourself the question, where am I needed? What happens when you hear that?
That's a good question. I don't know if I ever asked myself that question, but I tell you what I do in my head, and that is there are people who are not successful, and I'd rather be where I am and be grateful for the success that I am having. So it's really a perspective thing. There's a lot of people that complain about every little thing. Oh, I got too many phone calls. I got too many emails. And it happens. But I'm grateful that I have emails. I'd rather have that. There are people in a hospital bed right now who are dying. And you got to look at it from their perspective. They would pay anything. They would do anything. They would celebrate to have my problems or busyness. What most people consider annoying. Busyness is like too much. I can't, it's overwhelming. For them, they would celebrate to have this overwhelming experience. So it's really perspective.
Right. Well, that goes back to the first habit, which is to be aware of what's really essential. And when you're aware of what's essential and you have it, you're enormously grateful.
Absolutely.
For that situation. Absolutely. So I think our time is running up here, Bernie. This has been very, very
that went fast.
Productive. And I'd like to have you on as my guest for my next episode as well. We'll continue the conversation. We have much, much ground to cover.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it.
So thank you for tuning into this episode of Habits of a Whole Heart on HMTV. I appreciate my guest, Bernie Furshpan, for sharing some insights on this very important topic. Be sure to subscribe, share, and stay connected for more engaging conversations. Until next time, take care and be well.